It's great to be coaching football again. Been a long time since we were obviously out there, and the guys had a lot of energy, as you would expect. I mean, they've missed being together, missed being on the grass, being coached, competing. It's just a helmet-only day, and so, there's not a lot to talk about with you about individual performances and things like that. If you give me a week, it'll be a lot more detailed for you. But so many guys back from injury, so it was fun just to see like C.J. Riley catching the ball again, and Tyon Palmer and Tayshawn Smith and Tyrone Riley. It's great to have them back out on the grass with us. It's fun to watch the coaches get out there with their players. We've all missed what we do for a living, and so all that was good. The precautions and wearing the mask on the helmet seemed to be pretty good. It didn't fog up too much. Guys had to wipe them off from time to time, and when their helmets are off, we've got masks up. So a lot of precautions. Feel like the guys have bought into that. We've been very good, and now we'll see kind of as we now have all 123 out on the field with us, and students returning to campus, if we can keep that kind of in the same place. Any questions?
Coach, I'll go ahead and start us off. As far as the first day of training camp, how different was it, considering, what we're dealing with this year compared to all the other training camps you've had throughout your career?
Yeah, I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, sorry about that. Thank you for taking out time. I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, it's a way different camp. We didn't traditionally – we'd have had them here working out for a long time, and we'd know exactly where they're at conditioning wise. And so with us having 6 weeks to prepare them, we're spacing our workout and not doing as much, particularly the first week. We're going to try to get their legs back and get them in football shape. So, we were out there for about an hour and a half. And so it is a different camp from that standpoint. Generally you have about 30 days, 29 days of camp with 25 practices. We have 6 weeks to get really 24, 25 days of work in. And so we're spacing out our work with potentially losing players, to quarantining and all the things that can happen. We want to do everything we can to keep them as injury-free as possible. And so there's a lot of precaution here on our end. But it is more about pulling them back. They're so excited, to be out there. And so you kind of find yourself refereeing that way. But there's been some good recall from the spring. And as far as fall camp goes, this will be the most different fall camp for any coach. I don't care what level of football you coach. There is no comparison, with the precautions that we're doing and everything that we do with these guys. You can't compare it to any camp we've ever had.
Okay, Brett Friedlander, you had a question. Reminder, y'all, if y'all put your hand up on the screen, I can go around and we won't all talk on top of each other.
Yeah, Dave.
Brett, go ahead.
Yeah, Dave, you mentioned the 6 weeks to prepare. You don't know when the target date is, though, because you haven't been told when the season's going to start. So how do you pace yourself and how do you prepare leading up to an opening game you really don't know when it's going to be yet?
Yeah, it's not ideal. Like I told the team, we're going to have to be very accepting of a lot of unknowns right now. It's just kind of the way that the world is. And we can sit here and complain about a lot of things, but the bottom line is we got to play football today, and we're excited that we got to do that. I would love to know who we play, but we don't. There's nothing I can do about it. When they tell me, we'll get our game plan going and start working on that. But right now it's about us and our team values, our team core values, our team chemistry, the install of our offensive and defensive and special team systems, the football IQ that we can teach. That's what it's about right now.
Mike Topher, you have anything?
Yeah, Coach, thanks for joining us today. What did you make of the first day of maybe some of the conditioning and physicality of your guys? Because I know as far as the spring and obviously the summer, a concern for athletes was not having access to a proper gym or even a proper nutrition. What did you make of them early?
Guys were in good shape. The kids that struggled are the newcomers, the ones that signed in February. They have no idea what a college practice looks like. and that's expected, right? And this was their first time in a college practice. But the young men that went through the winter program and the beginning of spring ball, they're in good shape. They look good. I mean, now we didn't go out there in full pads. We didn't practice for 2 hours. It was helmets, and we were out there an hour and a half. So we didn't push them as hard as we will as we move forward. But for today, I thought the returning players looked really good.
Corey.
Coach, thanks again for joining us. Wanted to ask you kind of opposite of that. I mean, who are some of the guys that have stepped up from a leadership standpoint? Because there's a lot of guys that have to adapt to new roles this upcoming season. But what have you seen from the spring and those short amount of summer workouts and now fall camp that you've seen from a leadership standpoint?
Well, I think in each position group you're seeing that, if you just want to, single out a guy or two, Isaiah Moore and Grant Gibson, as you guys have seen with our Pack United, have really stepped into a vocal role for social change and super proud of them and the work they're doing there with our football team. When it comes to the day in, day out of football, in each position group, you see one or two guys that are very vocal. In the running back room, Ricky is very vocal. In the O-line room, Joe Skoltrup is very vocal. In the quarterback room, Devin and Bailey are both very vocal. As you go through it, tight ends, Dylan Ottenreith, wide receivers, Emeka, CJ, Riley, Thayer. There's a lot of leadership, a lot of experience in that room. On the defensive line, Aleem has become very vocal in that group. At linebacker, Peyton is more vocal than he was, but Isaiah is kind of the guy that keeps everything going over there. In the secondary, Tanner is without a doubt the vocal guy in that group. But there's some experience that, having these injured DBs coming back, it's going to be fun to see all that in a competition mode and how it plays out. But, I'm happy with the growth we've had. I think at this time last year, it would have been a really hard question for me to answer. We had to play a lot of guys before they were ready, and I think those experiences have helped them grow as leaders.
Andrea Adelson.
Hey, Dave, thanks for doing this.
You bet.
Have you had any players opt out for health reasons?
No, we haven't. We actually had the opposite. These guys want in here bad right now. It's like they really want to play. So, I don't know. It just doesn't seem on our football team, at least not yet, to be a topic that anyone's brought up to a coach or a strength coach. So if it happens, we'll deal with it when it does. But at this point, it's the opposite. It's, coach, let's go, And I think they're very, very excited about the opportunity that they have. And we'll see how it continues. Obviously there's a lot of things going on around them nationally that they have to look at. And whatever they decide to do, we'll support them and the guys that want to be a part of this. And, it's an interesting time in our sport, that's for sure.
Well, as a follow-up to that, have any players mentioned or talked about what's happening in other parts of the country with the Pac-12 players just being a little bit more vocal about things they'd like to see done to help them out?
Not yet. No, yesterday was our first day to have in-person team meetings. Had a billion Zooms with these guys, but I have not had a conversation about it with them. They haven't brought it to my attention. Not that they won't, Andrea, it just hasn't happened yet.
Daniel Wilson.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for meeting with us. So we don't know exactly what order it's come in so far, but you know who you're playing this year, and it looks like you're an honorary member of the Coastal Division this year. Just want to get your thoughts on the schedule of teams that you got. Obviously, you missed out on hitting ACC powerhouse Boston College, and also, Clemson, Louisville, Notre Dame.
Yeah. I'm not going to talk bad about any school.
Right.
Boston College kicked our ass last year. So, I'm the last coach that you should call and hear them talk smack about playing anybody. For us, we got to handle our business. We got a lot to prove here as coaches and as players. I am excited to play teams that we haven't played in a long time. There's a number of players on our roster that have not played almost every team we're playing this year from the Coastal Division besides UNC and Georgia Tech, so we've got a lot of guys that are from Virginia that are excited about the opportunity to play 2 Virginia schools from the league. But, again, I think as human beings, if we sit around and complain about the things that aren't in our control, we're going to have a miserable day. I'm not trying to do that right now, man. I got enough going on. So I'm focused on the 10 teams and trying to get our 11th game scheduled. And once I know the order, that'll help us kind of start our planning and travel and all those things that go with it.
Aaron Beard, what you got?
Hey, Dave, good to see you again. I'm curious, how do you manage the idea of talking to your guys about the big picture? Like normally at the beginning of the season, you might say, these are the goals we have. We think we can be this kind of team and so forth. Does that change at all now, considering you're just trying to get through each week with safety protocols and all these things that are between now and before you ever play a game that are different this year?
I think everything's changed when it comes to how far out you can look at things and think it might happen or might not happen, right? Every date on the calendar changes for me anyway. Like the information I had about what was going to go on today, it changes fast, hourly. And like I told them, this has got to be a day-by-day thing for us right now. And we got today, let's grind and let's do everything we can to come back tomorrow and get a better day than we had the last day. And once the league gives us direction on who we're playing, we'll go. But I've told them this is the only year in my life as a coach where every guy on the roster could play in a game, could start in a game. You don't know, when you're going to have that contact tracing thing wipe out a position and all of a sudden your 5th guy is your 1st guy. So, every guy in the room had big eyes when I said that, and it's real. They have to prepare themselves that way. So keeping these young men healthy and engaged and understanding of the reality is part of what we talk about.
And just to follow up with that, do you have much of a handle on what you think this team is capable of? Last year was a lot of youth, like you said, that kind of caught you at a bad time. Do you have a handle, or is it just too many variables to really know?
I really like this team. I don't know how many games we're going to win. We got to earn every one of those. But I do like their hunger. I do like their growth. I like their dissatisfaction with what occurred before and the things that we did over the offseason to be better for that. I think losing provides you an opportunity for growth, and I feel like our guys took advantage of that opportunity. Now we've got a lot of work to do to figure out who our best 11 are, because we played all these young guys last year because all the older injured players were gone, and now they're all back together. And so there's a lot of competition and practice that needs to take place before I can tell you how good we're going to be. But I do like the growth that we've had and the direction that we're headed.
Thanks, Dave.
You bet.
Chris Lee.
Hi, Coach. Thank you for your time today. Chris Lee from WRL. I wanted to ask you about what is your message to your team as far as like what you want them to do or what want them to not do when they're not in the facility, when they're not in practice? What have you told them about either wearing masks or staying away or staying on campus or staying at their apartments, that type of thing, so that they're not as exposed as they, possibly could be to COVID?
I think the biggest thing is just protect the mission. These guys have talked for months and months and months about wanting to get back out there and play and earn their right to be in a certain position as a football team, to not be disappointed with their season, to be excited about the results of their season. And so the biggest thing is just protect it. Wear a mask when you're in public, wash your hands, use Purell and the different things that are out there from a hand sanitizer standpoint. Don't go to parties where there's people that haven't been tested. You just have to be super smart. We've talked about social sacrifice quite a bit with our football team. And if you really want to have a season, you're just going to have to give up some things that you normally may not have to give up. But this year more than ever, if you want to have a season and not cross-contaminate and get guys into a contact tracing situation, and now your selfish decisions have cost 10 guys, 14 days of their season, we've talked a lot about that, and it's still going to come down to their choices. And as we all know, some of this is out of our control too. You know, I mean, you can go to your mailbox and all of a sudden you get germs off of it. You had no idea, right? And so some of this is going to be challenging, but going to a party, getting in a swimming pool with 100 people, like things like that, yeah. I mean, common sense needs to be common right now, for sure.
Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Jonas Pope, what you got?
Hey, Coach, how are you?
Good, Jonas.
I know you said you guys just had the helmets on today, so you didn't do a whole lot. But since Devin came in and he was named the #1 guy in the spring, did you see a different approach from him, maybe more confidence, maybe a little bit more pep in his step now that he knows that he's the guy heading into the season?
Yeah, I think so. You know, I think, and that started this off-season program. He definitely is more confident. He knows his teammates believe in him. He knows his coaches believe in him. He's not walking around like I got to prove myself no matter what every day. If I throw one bad pass, I'm out. Like, he's very comfortable. But he drives hard now. I mean, he's as hard on himself as anybody is. So we have to be careful that way with him. All the experience he had and all the reps he had, and the same thing goes for Bailey. I mean, he went through a similar experience. I think they've both grown a lot to this point, and now it's about getting out there on the grass and getting them in as many game situations that we can. How are they going to, like today was red zone, day one. We put them in the red zone to see how they'd respond. And we'll do it again tomorrow. And then third down comes in, and then 2-minute comes in, and just trying to get those thinking moments as a quarterback. How are you going to manage the team in this situation and see where they've grown in that area as well. By the way, congrats on your decision.
Thank you.
You guys see, he did like the recruiting thing where he pulled the hat out, but you had what, media guides or something? That was big time. I'm not making fun of you. I'm serious. That was big time.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap it up because the players are coming on. But Josh Graham, you have something real quick?
Yeah, along the lines of – thank you for doing this, by the way. Along the lines of precautions and also the conditioning aspect of things, many of the same symptoms for COVID are the same symptoms you see for heat wave and heat exhaustion as well. So what kind of things are you telling your medical staff, or the medical staff's telling you to keep an eye on to ensure you have the right precautions?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't mean this in a way where I'm not respecting COVID, because there's so many precautions here for that. But I'm more concerned about heat illness and season-ending injuries than I am about a virus that in most cases in our age group of guys is 3 to 5 days, you know. And so there's been a ton of conversation. We always talk about the guys on our team that are sickle cell positive, because they're the ones that you most are concerned about when it comes to the heat. We got a break in the weather today with the rain yesterday, so it wasn't too hot, but there were still some guys that need to hydrate better. And so we're constantly talking about hydration with the team. We're constantly monitoring by weighing them in, weighing them out before and after practice. We know what type of sweaters they are. Are they a guy that sweats a lot of water, a lot of salt, a lot of electrolytes, and replenishing that? And so there's a lot of things that go on here. And then at practice, you know, making sure that we have guys in the shade at the halftime break, and that we're taking enough breaks to water guys down. And with COVID now, you can't use a water bottle that doesn't have your name on it. So, because you don't want to use someone else's bottle. So there's a lot of things happening here to protect the COVID part of it, and the heat illness part of it, and the hydration part of it for soft tissue injuries that happen when you're dehydrated. So I feel like I'm overeducated right now on the sports med side of things, because there's been so many conversations on it.
All right, Brett Friedlander.
Yeah, I noticed that Terrell Dawkins is wearing number 0. I was wondering, did he get assigned that, or did he ask for it?
He asked for it. You know, we had about, 8 to 10 guys in the winter ask for number changes, and I told them I'd wait until the end of the summer to see how their summer conditioning was, how their academics were, and you know, just how they're progressing. And that was what he wanted. He did a great job in the classroom. He's gained weight. He's in a really good place mentally. So he earned the right to wear number 0 for the first time, you know, so we'll see how that goes.
How about number 1? You usually give that to a special player, and I didn't see the number 1 on the roster. You just waiting on that one, or do you know number 1?
We're going to wait and get into camp and let guys kind of prove themselves a little bit. And obviously we didn't have a spring, which normally I'd see how guys come out of the spring. And I want to see, you know, you have a feeling on who those guys are, but you want to see them play the game too. It's not just about your leadership in the weight room or how you're doing things in the classroom. It's everything that you're doing. And right now we haven't played enough football for me to be able to anoint somebody there.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, guys, I see Isaiah